Hello, I'm Thomas with EVELO Electric Bicycles. Today we're going to run you through how to unbox and assemble your Compass tricycle. First off, let's open up the box and check things out. First thing is locate any small parts boxes or loose items. So we have a box here. Set those aside for later. So getting the compass out of the box is easiest done with an assistant, a friend. It is quite large, so grab a buddy and grab a hold of the front fork, and the back end has a really nice bar here to hold on to. And you go straight up. Now that your compass is out of the box, you can start by removing all the packaging first. So go ahead and cut all the white zip ties here and get all the foam and cardboard and zip ties removed from the entire bicycle. So at this point, you're going to look for your assembly tools, which are located inside this black box, zip tied to the large triangular wedge here. So go ahead and cut those out. Over on the other side, you'll actually have your fender struts. You should have also removed from the bottom of the box these are your fenders. Make sure that you have those and they're not still at the bottom of the box. And then you also have a small parts box that has pedals and other items in there. You can currently set aside those three. However, you're going to want to get inside this black box here where your charger is located, your owner's manual, and also your assembly tools. So go ahead and open it up here. You have owner's manual, user guide for your display, a small bit for your charger. You'll find a bag full of assembly tools, and those are the ones you're after at this point. And then you also find your charger in there. So go ahead and set aside everything but the assembly tools for now, and then you can move forward. So at this point you have your tricycle out and ready to go, so it's time to open up the wheel boxes, get everything out of there as well. So a really important next step is to properly orient your front fork and handlebars. So let's start with keep your handlebars off to the non-chain side of the tricycle here, and then as you spin your fork counterclockwise, you'll end up with all the wiring in the proper orientation here. This part is important because we often get reports of wiring on the wrong side. So make sure your fork was spun counterclockwise so that all of the wiring ends up coming out of the frame and exiting to the left side when it's upright, but ultimately non-chain side of the tricycle. Next step is going to be front fender install followed by front wheel. So for this step, you're going to need a 4mm and 5mm Allen wrench plus your 10mm open-ended box wrench. So go ahead and locate your front fender. First step is going to be actually the bolt which holds the upper end when it's upright. It is already on the bike, so go ahead and remove this very long bolt you find here. Locate your front light. Make sure the wiring is clear of the others. And the first thing you're going to do is run your long bolt through the light first, through your fork second, followed by the tab on the fender. So with your fender upside down, find the tab here and place that on the bolt. Follow that by a washer. And lastly, your nut. Then use your 4mm Allen key to loosen the two screws that are already in the fork.
good thing we can speed through this and not sound.
Good. Yep. I'm not sure why John showed up for this. So next you're going to install your screw that you just removed through the fender bracket or strut and then into the frame again. Make sure to go in straight and then just go ahead and tighten these guys down.
Hey, can we get quiet on the set?
There's a lot of cussing in this video right now from you guys. With the bottom two bolts tight, you can go ahead and tighten the main big bolt we attached first. You're going to use a 5mm Allen key on the front half and a 10mm box wrench on the back side, and then just go ahead and tighten this guy down as well. Next step will be to locate your front skewer in your small parts box, the little cardboard box. Find the skewer and your front wheel. First, unscrew the plastic end of the skewer and take with it also the spring right adjacent to it. Go ahead and insert your skewer at this point with both the cam lever, cam piece, and one spring into the axle of your front wheel. Insert the second spring with the skinny pointy side towards the axle, and then your plastic nut. Thread that in a couple of turns. Lift the entire assembly into your fork, line up your disc brake into the brake caliper and axle into the drop out of the fork. Go ahead and tighten down your quick release skewer appropriately. Make sure that this is done properly and the cam is actually folded over, or else this is not or else you're not going to secure your front wheel properly and for the use of the disc brake. Alright, so next step will be installing rear fenders, which are going to be in separate pieces at the moment. So you have two of these and one of these. This should be all of your rear fender parts. So you go ahead and unwrap the actual fender boards. Grand total, you're going to have 6 of those struts that you're going to have to attach to the frame first. So go ahead and find your trusty yellow screwdriver that came in your assembly toolkit. Go ahead and remove all 6 of these Phillips screws from the fender mounts. Those for one side and then these for the other, with this one being the center one. So let's go ahead and start with that installation. Take that and mount it with the curvature facing away from the basket. Line it up like so. And then you can put these bolts in here, or these two. So that's just the center one. And then go ahead and find the 2 ones that don't have a bolt on the halfway mark, and go ahead and install those. So the next step is going to be to actually remove this piece of hardware with the spacer nut from the center strut and attach that to the basket before going on with the rest of the fender. So go ahead and remove that. Run the bolt through the strut first, followed by the 3 black spacers behind it. So we're going to go ahead and actually run the bolt through the strut, through the 3 black spacers, and then through the slot in that part of the basket. And then on the inside of the basket, you're going to put on first the little washer, then the nut. This part might be a little tricky. It will require you to reach up from the inside. So you install that, and maybe wait to tighten that down until the end. An important part to notice is the difference of hole placement towards the edge of the fender here. So you're going to want to make sure that you have these in the proper orientation, or else the fender is shaped wrong. The part that has the hole farther from the edge is actually the front of the fender, forward towards the front of the bike. So go ahead and turn that so that you have it oriented as such. Go ahead and grab your bolt from the middle hardware first. Take it and go through the fender, then go into the strut, place your washer and your nut. And then do the front here, so remove that bolt, go through the fender, through the strut, washer, and the nut. And then lastly, for the rear as well, the rear strut. And this is something you're going to have to do on the opposite side as well. Now that those are all attached, go ahead and tighten everything down. For this, you're going to use your second smallest Allen key provided. This is a 3mm. And you're also going to use the smallest open-ended wrench, the 8mm side for the nut. So go ahead and tighten those all down. One thing to note is that all the fenders struts have an ovalized hole here. So before tightening down entirely, it would probably be a really good idea to pull the fender as far away from the basket as possible to afford a slight bit more clearance here. So make sure you do that before you tighten it. Next step is going to be installing the wheels. So important key factor to note here is that the silver nut on the end of the axle is actually reverse threaded. So to take it off, you're going to go clockwise, right? So turn that clockwise, get that to come off. The lock nut behind it is regular thread, so counterclockwise to get it off. Now you're going to find the proper wheel here. It actually shouldn't matter which way you go in because they're unidirectional here. The idea here is though that you have to retain the axle key. So there's a black zip tie that currently holds that in. Go ahead and snip that zip tie. Make sure not to lose this piece. This is the axle key. This interfaces your wheel to the axle and causes it to actually function. So make sure that that's in place. Don't lose that. That has to fit into the slot. And then after that, you should be able to slide your wheel on here, lining up your axle key. Make sure the notch in the axle slides over the axle key and push the wheel all the way in until it bottoms out. Lock nut is next. So you're going to go with that, turn it clockwise to tighten. And in your toolkit you were provided with this nice little spanner wrench here, so go ahead and grab it and lock this down. Hold the wheel with one hand and turn the nut with the other, or the lock ring, sorry. And then go ahead and install the end nut. Remember opposite threads, so turning counterclockwise to tighten. And this will utilize the largest open-ended wrench. You're going to use a 16mm size. Go ahead and tighten that down. And you will repeat that same thing for the opposite side. So now that wheels are on, it's time to flip this right side up. So be mindful of the handlebars attached to the cables there. This is best done with a buddy, an assistant here to help you lift. So the next step in this process is going to be to find your cosmetic stem cap from the small parts box and install this and the handlebar assembly. So go ahead and grab your handlebars here and verify that your wedge here is in a fashion so that this slides on. If this is pulled up, go ahead and use your 6mm Allen key back here to turn this to loosen it. And at that point you will have enough slack to slide this on first. And then you're going to take the entire thing and push it up inside the fork steer tube here. You're going to want to make sure to insert it far enough to hide the hash marks found on the stem here. That is your max height, so you cannot exceed that. You want to make sure that the hash marks are at least part of the way sunk in, if not entirely hidden. So go ahead and insert that and tighten down the 6mm bolt on top. Before you crank it down all the way, you're going to want to line the stem with the wheel in order to get your handlebars straight. And the best way to do that is to look straight down from the stem into the tire, line that up in the correct plane, and go ahead and tighten everything else down all the way. Alrighty, so the last step here is going to be pedal install. So find your pedals from the small parts box again. Take this packaging off. Keep in mind that left and right pedals are different and you will need to find the correct one here. So the easiest way is to look at the back side of the spindle. There will be an L and an R. R is right, L is left. Keep in mind that the right pedal is going to be the correct normal threading. So righty tighty, lefty loosey. The left pedal is reverse thread, so that's going to go the opposite. What you're going to use here is a 15mm box wrench. This is provided in your tool set. Use the bigger side here of the combo wrench here, that's the 15. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to thread the pedal into the cranks. Make sure you're going in straight, and then turn it. The right pedal, which is on the chain side, goes regular thread. So you're going to turn that in all the way and use your 15mm to tighten that down. And do the same for the opposite side, with the exception that the pedal threads in counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So at this point you've assembled the entire thing, and there might be some minor adjustments to make. One key thing to note is that currently both key sets are in the locks, so you're going to want to make sure to pull those out before you go ride so you don't lose these. And there will be one set for each lock here, so go ahead and make sure that those are set aside after you've locked the battery in correctly. Last of the packaging can come off. And now, short of adjusting seat height and handlebar angle, you're ready, fully assembled and ready to ride. So adjusting the handlebar angle is done with this 6mm Allen wrench from the bolt on the underside here. Loosen that, adjust your handlebars as desired, tighten back down. To adjust the handlebar height, you're going to do this with a 6mm Allen wrench again from the top down. Make sure that you're hiding the hash marks inside of this nut on the steer tube. Otherwise, go as high or low as desired here. And that is again done with that 6mm Allen wrench from the top down. And then the last adjustment would be if you require a seat adjustment. It is done, seat height is done here at this bolt, and then seat angle is done with this single 6mm bolt from underside, and you can actually tip the seat in whatever angle you would like. Those are the last adjustments that you're going to have to make this tricycle work for you. Now that your Compass is entirely assembled, please refer to your user's guide for pre-ride instructions and other useful information. If you have any further questions, the back cover has any of our contact information. And otherwise, we hope you enjoy your Compass for many miles to come.